Ethan Ross opened his eyes slowly. Everything around him was broken and smoking. Sparks flew from damaged panels. His head hurt, and his body felt heavy. He looked around and saw the crashed supply shuttle. Metal pieces were scattered everywhere. Trees with thick blue leaves surrounded the wreck. He was alone. Emergency log, Kareth 4, supply drop, crash landing. Ethan whispered to himself, trying to remember. He checked his arm. A small device blinked red. It had recorded the crash. His team was gone. He had been the only one on board during this supply run. Kareth 4 was not a safe moon. It was full of strange animals and thick jungle. It was not made for humans to live on. But right now, it was the only place Ethan had. He got up slowly, wincing from the pain in his side. He walked around the wreck and found a small survival kit. It had food packs, water tablets, a heat knife, and a short-range signal beacon. He tried to send a signal, but the device showed nothing. No signal. Of course, he muttered. Ethan took a deep breath and started building a small shelter from shuttle parts and branches. He made a fire using the heat knife. As night came, the jungle grew loud with strange sounds, growls, clicks, and heavy footsteps. His heart beat fast, but he stayed near the fire. Then he heard something different. Voices. Not human voices. He turned quickly, holding a metal rod like a weapon. Shapes moved between the trees. Then they came into the firelight. Tall figures in armor made from bone and crystal. They had glowing eyes and long braided hair. Their skin was smooth, silver with a hint of violet. They looked strong and graceful. One of them stepped forward. It was a woman, taller than Ethan, with sharp eyes and deep teal markings across her cheeks. She wore armor that shimmered under the firelight. She looked like a hunter or a warrior. She stopped and stared at Ethan. He didn't move. He raised his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. The woman looked down at his chest. The torn part of his suit showed a long scar across his chest, from an old injury back on Earth during a mining accident. He had almost died that day, but it left him with a thick line from shoulder to stomach. Suddenly, the alien woman took a step back, eyes wide in shock. She looked at the others and spoke in a strange language. Then she dropped to one knee, placed her fist over her chest, and said something clearly, slowly, in her language. Ethan didn't understand, but her voice was strong and filled with respect. She stood again and pointed at his scar. Then she spoke one sentence in broken English, like she had studied it before. "You are my chosen husband." Ethan blinked. "Wait. What?" The other alien warriors lowered their weapons. Some knelt, others whispered. They all looked at Ethan like he was something important. The warrior woman stepped closer and touched the scar on his chest with her fingertips. Her hand was warm, her touch gentle. She nodded once like she was sure. Ethan took a step back. "Look, I think there's been a mistake." But two warriors came behind him, not to attack, but to guide him. They gently pushed him forward. He looked at the woman again. She said her name clearly. Velaira. Then she pointed to herself and him. Bonded. Ethan didn't know what to say. He was just a human engineer, not a warrior, not a hero. But these people were treating him like he was something more. He didn't understand why. As they led him through the jungle, Ethan saw signs of a strong, hidden society. Bridges in the trees, tall stone towers covered in vines, glowing crystals, placed along paths. The alien village was large and full of life. Strange birds flew above. Children with glowing tattoos ran and played, but everyone stopped when they saw Ethan. They looked at him, at his scar, and then at Velaira. She stood tall and proud. Her people whispered, and some bowed. Inside a large tent made of woven metal and leaves, Ethan was given water and food. Velaira sat beside him, never taking her eyes off him. She touched her heart, then his chest. Scar. Mark of the stars, she said slowly. Prophecy. Ethan shook his head. I'm not a chosen one. I'm just me. But she looked at him with certainty. That night, Ethan lay in a bed made of soft plant fibers, looking at the stars through the open roof. His body was sore. His mind was full of questions. Who were these people? Why did they think he was chosen? He looked down at the scar on his chest. For years it had just been a mark of pain and survival. Now, it might mean something more. In the distance, he heard drums and chants. The village was celebrating, and somewhere in the shadows, unseen by all, a pair of glowing red eyes watched from the jungle. Ethan woke to the sound of low voices outside the tent. The sun on Kareth 4 was rising, and golden light spilled through the leaves above. The village around him was already awake. People moved between huts, carrying baskets and tools. Drums played softly in the background. He sat up slowly, still confused. The events of last night rushed back into his mind. The crash, the scar, the alien warriors, and Velira, the tall, silver-skinned woman who had called him her chosen husband. Ethan touched the scar on his chest. It was still there, of course, but now it felt different. Suddenly, the tent flap opened. Velira stepped inside. She wore armor again, but this time it had red cloth tied around one arm. She walked like a leader, calm, confident, and strong. She looked at Ethan and gave a small nod. Then she sat across from him. Food, she said, placing a tray made of stone in front of him. There were fruits, some soft meat, and a glowing drink that smelled like mint. Ethan nodded. Thanks. As he ate, Velira spoke in her own language, pointing to objects and naming them. She wanted him to learn. Ethan repeated the words after her. He pointed to himself. Ethan. She smiled slightly. Ethan, she repeated, then pointed to herself. Velira. After the small lesson, she stood and motioned for him to follow. Ethan stepped outside. The village was bigger than he thought. Houses made from stone and metal stood on platforms in the trees. Vines held everything, together like natural rope. The people watched him, whispering. Some smiled. Others stared with wide eyes. Velira walked ahead, leading him to the center of the village. There stood a large, round structure made from black stone. Torches burned around it. At the top stood several older aliens wearing long robes and crystal necklaces. They looked important. Velira spoke to them in her language. The elders looked at Ethan, then at the scar on his chest. One of them stepped forward and touched the scar lightly. He muttered something, then nodded. The elder raised his hand and shouted in a strong voice. The villagers cheered. Ethan turned to Velira. What's going on? Velira looked at him seriously and said, You are now bonded. Bonded? Ethan asked. She nodded. Husband? Me? You? Ethan blinked. Hold on. I didn't agree to anything. Velira tilted her head. Scar is the mark, sacred. Only one in many stars has it. I just got this from a mining accident. Back on Earth, he said. She frowned. No. It is the mark of the one who unites. It is written in the old stones. Ethan looked around. The people believed it. They believed he was part of some prophecy. Maybe it was a mistake. Or maybe something bigger was going on. Before he could speak again, loud horns sounded from the jungle. Everyone stopped. Warriors grabbed their weapons, long spears with glowing tips and curved blades that hummed with energy. Velira grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him aside. Come, not safe now. They ran with several others to a lookout post in the trees. From there, Ethan saw movement in the thick jungle. Giant black shapes moved in the shadows. Their eyes glowed red. What are those? He whispered. Valira's face turned cold. Vorgar. Enemies? Yes, ancient. They come for us. Down below, the warriors prepared to defend the village. Valera turned to Ethan. You stay. Safe place. But Ethan shook his head. I can help. I know machines. I know traps. She looked at him unsure. I'm not a fighter like you, he said. But I can build. She gave a short nod. Then you build. For the clan. Ethan was taken to the edge of the village, where he found old parts. Broken drones, crystal batteries, and wire. The Corellians didn't fully understand the tech they had, but Ethan did. He quickly started building motion sensors and traps with small energy bursts. He worked fast, using knowledge from Earth training and years of engineering. Children brought him tools. Some elders watched with wonder. Ethan placed traps along paths leading to the village. Night came again. The jungle was quiet, but too quiet. Then came the roar. The Vorgar charged from the trees, large beast-like creatures with bone armor and sharp claws. The traps lit up. Energy bursts hit the beasts, slowing them. Some were caught in nets that tightened with heat. The Corellian warriors attacked with skill. Valera led them, spinning with her spear, moving like a storm. She fought 3 beasts at once, never backing down. Ethan watched from the tree post, heart racing. A beast broke through the traps and rushed toward him. He panicked, but then grabbed a spear from a nearby warrior. As the beast leapt, Ethan ducked and jabbed upward. The spear pierced its shoulder and it crashed into the ground, howling. Valera saw it all. After the fight, the Vorgar were pushed back. Fires burned along the jungle's edge. The villagers cheered again, louder this time. Ethan sat on the ground, breathing hard. He had dirt on his face, blood on his arm, and sweat pouring down. Valera approached slowly. She kneeled beside him, her voice soft now. You are brave. You build. You protect. I tried, he said. She gently touched his scar again. You are the one. I do not doubt. Ethan looked into her eyes. He didn't know what the prophecy really meant, but he knew this much. He wasn't alone anymore, and in her world maybe he truly had a place. 2 days had passed since Liari left. Jack tried to return to normal. He cleaned his workshop, repaired an old mining drone, and fixed a small cargo shuttle's heat coils. But something felt empty. The crystal message from Liari still sat on his desk. He hadn't erased it. Sometimes he listened to it at night, hearing her voice whisper those last few words. It wasn't a complete mistake. He didn't know what to make of it. Maybe she was joking, maybe she wasn't. He missed her, and that annoyed him. On the third morning, a strange customer arrived. She wore a red mask and a thick cloak. Her body language was stiff, careful. Jack watched her from the corner of his eye while pretending to sort tools. I heard the best mechanic on Argon 12 works here, the masked figure said. Jack didn't smile. He might. I need stealth engines tuned. And silence, of course. Jack stepped closer. Stealth engines are tricky. You a bounty hunter? The woman paused. Something like that. Her voice was cold. Jack nodded. I'll take a look. She handed over a data chip. Jack plugged it into his console. As soon as the scan began, alarms lit up on his screen. Warning, Empire-class tracking signal detected stealth system tied to Royal Valari ship chaser. Class classification, Hunter Unit. Jack froze. This wasn't just any visitor. This was a tracker. A hunter from the same empire Liari came from. And she was using a modified ship to track something, or someone. Jack looked at the masked woman again. She looked calm. Too calm. He had a bad feeling. Later that day, Jack slipped out and accessed the station's long-range scanner logs. He checked all recent entries and found one small signature that had passed the outer defense ring yesterday. It matched Liari's ship. It had been followed. That meant she was in trouble again, and now someone from her empire had arrived on Argon 12. Jack paced the workshop. He didn't know where she went. She could be light years away by now. Maybe she was already caught. But deep down, he didn't believe that. Liari wasn't the kind of woman who gave up easily. He pulled out the message crystal again and replayed her last words. "You trusted me when no one else did." He sighed. Then he made a decision. That night, Jack visited an old friend, Marn, a short alien with yellow eyes and too many teeth. Marn owned a scrapyard outside the station and owed Jack a favor. "I need a fast ship," Jack said. Marn laughed. "Since when do you leave Argon 12? "Since someone I care about might get hunted." Marn nodded slowly. "The warrior woman, huh?" Jack didn't answer, but Marn smiled. "I like her already. I'll get you something fast and quiet. No trackers, no questions." By morning, Jack was gone. 3 days later, on a quiet moon near the Valari border, Liari stood under the stars. She was hiding again. The village elders who gave her shelter now feared the Empire's wrath. Liari didn't blame them. She had placed them in danger. She had changed her cloak, changed her ship's ID again, but it didn't matter. They would keep coming. She held a scanner in her hand. It was old, slow, but still working. She had been using it every night, searching for any signal, any familiar code. But the screen always stayed empty. She whispered to herself, "You probably forgot me already?" She turned to leave. Then the scanner beeped. One single signal. Human-made. Familiar code. Her eyes widened. She ran to the ridge and looked to the sky. A small ship was approaching, fast, unmarked. Her heart raced. The ship landed near the trees. The engines powered down. The door opened. Jack stepped out, wearing his usual black jacket, holding a toolbox in one hand and a serious look on his face. Liari stood frozen. Jack looked around and said, "This doesn't look like a repair job, but I figured you might need help." She laughed softly and walked toward him. I didn't think you'd come," she said. "I didn't think I would either," Jack replied. "But here I am." They stood close now. The stars above them shimmered. Wind moved through the tall blue grass. "I was followed," she said. "I know. One of your people came to my workshop. She was looking for your trail." "I should have stayed hidden," Liari said quietly. "You risked your life coming here." Jack shrugged. "Well, you accidentally called me your husband. I figured, that means I'm part of your problems now." She laughed again. "Still embarrassed about that." Jack smiled. "You should be. I'm a terrible husband. I didn't even bring flowers." Liari looked at him, her voice softer now. "I never said it was a mistake." Jack looked into her eyes. For the first time, she didn't look like a fugitive or a warrior. She just looked like someone who was tired of running. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black chip. "What's this?" she asked. "A cloaking field upgrade," he said. "Built it myself. It'll hide your ship, even from your Empire's top trackers." She took the chip carefully. "Thank you." "You're not alone anymore," Jack said. She looked down, holding the chip tightly. "Then stay, just for a while." Jack nodded. "Yeah, I think I will." Jack's workshop had changed. Ever since he renamed it Liari's Last Friend, the place became more than just a shop. It became a quiet message across the stars. A message that said, she mattered, she was here, and someone cared. Most people respected it. A few didn't. Jack didn't care either way. One afternoon, while working on a half-burned cargo hauler, Jack heard a knock, a soft one. He looked up. A hooded figure stood at the entrance, small, thin, and silent. "Another. Bounty hunter?" Jack muttered, wiping his hands. But when the figure stepped inside, she lowered her hood. Jack froze. It was Liari. Her hair was shorter now, tied back in a sharp braid. Her cloak was patched and dusty, but her eyes, those calm green eyes, were The same. Jack blinked. You're back. I had to see you, Liari said, her voice soft. I thought you were halfway across the stars by now. I was, she nodded. But I heard about the sign above your door and the trackers. Jack smiled faintly. They stopped coming. Guess they got tired of being zapped. Liari walked closer. You kept the rod? Jack reached over to his tool belt and pulled it out. Haven't used anything else since. Liari looked down. You could have been arrested because of me. Jack shrugged. I don't regret it. They sat together in the quiet workshop. A cleaning bot whirred in the background. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Then Jack asked, So what are you really doing now? Liari hesitated. I joined a movement, small but growing, aliens and humans both. We believe in free choice. We help those who want to escape the old rules. Like I did. Jack nodded slowly. A rebellion? Not yet, Liari replied. But maybe someday. Jack looked at her. You don't seem like a fighter. I wasn't, she said, but being hunted changes you. He saw it now. Her eyes were sharper, her voice stronger. The shy girl who once called him husband by accident. She was gone. Now she sat tall, like someone who had made hard choices and didn't run from them. Still, she smiled the same way. That night, Jack made them dinner. Simple station food, synth noodles and fried protein cubes. Liari laughed. It's not royal, but it's better than rebel rations. I cook like I fix ships, Jack said, fast and slightly dangerous. Liari leaned back in her chair. Do you ever think about what might have happened if I didn't run? Jack looked at her. You mean if you stayed in the palace? She nodded. I'd still be fixing junk, he said, and you'd be stuck with someone you didn't. Love. Liari's cheeks turned warm. That's not what I meant. Jack looked at her closely. What did you mean? She hesitated, then whispered, I sometimes wonder if I had to choose someone, maybe it wouldn't have been a noble. Jack chuckled. You mean someone who smells like burnt oil and grease? Liari smiled. Maybe that's better than fake smiles and cold hearts. There was a quiet moment between them, a moment where neither of them looked away. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the station. Jack jumped to his feet. That came from Dock Sector 3! He checked the scanners. A ship was under attack. Not just any ship, a refugee transport. Liari looked at the screen and gasped. That's one of ours, she said. We were trying to smuggle out a group of freethinkers, families, children. The screen showed the attackers, a group of armored bounty hunters. No flags, no names, just paid guns. They must have tracked them here, Liari said. They'll kill everyone. Jack grabbed his tool belt. Then let's stop them. Liari stood up too. I'm coming with you. Jack paused. You sure? She nodded. I may be a princess, but I can fight now. They ran through the station halls. Smoke filled the air. Sirens blared. People screamed and ducked for cover. At Dock Sector 3, chaos ruled. The transport ship's shields were failing. A small group of frightened aliens and humans were trapped behind crates. The bounty hunters fired energy blasts at anyone who moved. Jack ducked behind a wall and turned to Liari. Got a plan? She held up a small pulse emitter. I can blind them for 6 seconds. You hit their rifles. Break them. Jack grinned. Now you do sound like a fighter. They moved. Liari tossed the emitter. Flash! A blinding white light filled the bay. Jack charged forward, using his repair rod like a bat. He knocked rifles out of their hands, disabled weapons, kicked knees, dodged blasts. Liari covered him, guiding the refugees to safety. One of the hunters grabbed Jack from behind, choking him. Jack elbowed him hard and slammed the rod into the man's chest. Sparks flew. The man dropped. Finally, the last hunter ran. The others were down. The refugees clapped and cheered. Later, in the quiet med bay, Layari patched up a burn on Jack's arm. "You were amazing," she said. Jack winced. "You were better. That flash thing? Clever." Layari nodded. "I've learned a lot since I ran away." He looked at her gently. "You didn't just run, Layari. You changed." She met his eyes. "So did you." There was a pause. Then she said softly, "I meant it, you know. What I said before." Jack blinked. "About the translation mistake?" She smiled. "It wasn't a mistake." Jack looked down, then back at her. "I wouldn't mind hearing it again. One day." "When you're ready," Layari smiled, and this time, she didn't blush. Jack sat alone in his shop after the fight. The power systems were back online. The refugee families had left safely. The smoke was gone, but the thoughts in Jack's head were not. He kept thinking about Layari, the way she smiled after the battle, the way she stood tall while helping the wounded. She was not the same girl who nervously called him her husband by mistake. She had become strong, brave, confident, and somehow, somewhere between fixing her ship and fighting by her side, Jack had started to care. He tried to keep working. A broken engine sat on the table in front of him. The parts were simple. The problem was clear. But Jack's hands didn't move. Instead, his mind wandered back to Layari's words. It wasn't a mistake. His heart beat faster. "She meant it," he whispered. "She really meant it." The door opened behind him. Jack turned around. Layari stood there holding a small box. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." She walked in slowly, her eyes gentle. "You okay?" Jack nodded. "Just tired. Long day." She smiled. "I brought something." She placed the box on his table and opened it. Inside was a simple metal band, a small ring made of Valari star steel, a rare material used only in royal gifts. It was polished but not fancy, just strong and real. Jack looked at her, confused. "What is this?" Layari took a breath. "Where I come from, this is given when someone wants to mark a bond, not a contract, not a royal deal, a real bond between two people who trust each other." Jack stared at the ring. "Are you saying—" Layari interrupted, gently. "I'm not asking for marriage. Not yet. I know life's not that simple, but I want this to mean something." Jack picked up the ring slowly. "It does." Their eyes met. For the first time, there was no awkward silence between them. No confusion, no fear, just understanding. Later that evening, they sat on the roof of the station together, legs hanging over the side. The stars above them blinked like tiny fires. The world below was quiet. Jack looked at Layari. "You know they'll keep coming, right? The bounty hunters, the Empire, they won't give up." Layari nodded. "I know, but I'm not running anymore." Jack smiled. "So, what now?" Layari looked at the stars. "We build something new, a home for the ones who have none, a place where people choose who they want to be, free of old rules." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Big dream." "I'll need help," she said. He smirked. "Good thing I'm good with broken things." They both laughed. The next day, Layari gathered her rebel crew. They had been hiding in the station under fake IDs. Now they stood in Jack's shop, ready to move forward. "Jack," Layari said, "we want to set up a real base, a safe haven, a place where no one has to hide." Jack thought for a moment. "I might know a place." He opened a drawer and pulled out a dusty star map. "There's an old moon near the edge of neutral space. No one goes there. Not since the mining stations shut down." Layari leaned over the map. "What's it called?" Jack tapped the screen. "Farron 4. It's empty, quiet, and has underground bunkers we can fix. Liari smiled. Let's do it. 1 week later, Jack's ship, an old human freighter named Rusty Hope, flew alongside Liari's sleeker craft. Together, they entered orbit around Farron 4. The moon was gray and rocky, but the deep canyons hid the remains of old mining tunnels shielded from scanners. Jack walked through the tunnels with Liari at his side. "It's perfect," she whispered. "Needs a lot of work," Jack said. She grinned. "Good thing we brought the galaxy's best mechanic," Jack chuckled. "Flattery will get you free engine repairs." Over the next few days, they worked hard. Jack repaired the power cores. Liari's team cleaned out the tunnels. People from other rebel groups arrived too. Aliens, humans, young and old. All with the same dream, and slowly, a new home was built. They called it Freehold. One night, Jack sat on a rock outside the entrance, watching the stars again. His shirt was stained with grease. His hands were tired, but his heart was full. Liari walked over and sat beside him. "We did it," she said. He nodded. "Feels different now." She looked at him. "You do too." Jack smiled. "I never meant to fall for you." Liari smiled back. "I never meant to call you my husband." They both laughed. Jack pulled the ring from his pocket. The star steel caught the moonlight. "I'm still wearing it," he said. Liari touched it gently. "So am I." She leaned her head on his shoulder. For a long time, they just sat there. No words, no fear, no confusion. Just two people, once strangers. Now something more, looking at the stars they would face together. The peace on Farron 4 did not last long. One morning, a loud alarm echoed through the underground tunnels of Freehold. The people, humans, aliens, engineers, farmers, rebels, rushed from their rooms, half-dressed, confused, and worried. Jack ran to the command center, his boots thudding on the metal floor. Liari was already there. Her face was serious. "What is it?" Jack asked. She pointed at the large screen. A ship hovered in orbit above the moon, sleek, black, and marked with a royal seal, the Valari Highborn Guard. "They found me," Liari said quietly. Jack stared at the screen. "They're not here to talk, are they?" She shook her head. "They'll try to take me back. I'm still their lost princess. To them, I belong in a cage." Jack clenched his fists. "Over my dead body." The guard ship sent a message. "Surrender. The princess. This is a royal order." Jack didn't wait. He sent his own message back. "She's not yours anymore." Then he turned off the comms. The people of Freehold were scared. But no one ran. They had built this place with sweat and hope. They had nowhere else to go. Jack stood in front of the crowd. "They want Liari, but we all know what they really want. Control. Power. Fear." He looked around. "We didn't come this far to kneel. We fix things. We build things. And when someone tries to break what we made, we fight back." The crowd cheered. Liari stepped beside him. She had her old armor on, silver plates and teal stripes. Her voice was calm. "I won't hide. Not anymore." The first wave came down in dropships. Elite soldiers in white and gold armor marched across the rocky moon surface. But Jack had a plan. Freehold wasn't just a base. It was a trap. Old mining tunnels became ambush zones. Hidden turrets rose from rocks. Power coils Jack fixed now powered defense cannons. The guard walked into a battlefield they did not understand. The ground shook as the first blast hit. Jack, holding a patched-up plasma rifle, fought beside Liari. They ducked behind a wall as bolts flew overhead. "I thought I was done with this life," Jack shouted. Liari smirked. "Guess I'm a bad influence." A group of soldiers charged. Jack shot a pipe above them. Steam burst out, blinding them. Liari leaped through the mist, her blade slicing cleanly. More enemies came, but Freehold was ready. Old workers fought like warriors. Mechanics used tools as weapons. Farmers used explosive soil bags. Everyone stood for Liari because she stood for them. Hours passed. The guard retreated toward their ship, but they didn't make it. Freehold's ships, led by Liari's crew, circled the enemy ship. Jack's signal jammed their jump drive. On the ground, the last few enemy soldiers surrendered. The battle was over. Freehold had won. Later that night, the people gathered around a fire. There were bruises, burns, and tired eyes, but also laughter and pride. Jack sat with Liari again. This time, there was no silence between them, just a peaceful understanding. "You really think they won't come again?" Jack asked. "They will," Liari said, "but they'll think twice." She looked into the fire. "They were royalty, strong, trained, but we beat them. Not with numbers, with unity." Jack looked around. "This place, it's more than a base now," she nodded. "It's a symbol." Jack held her hand gently. "And you're not just a runaway princess anymore." Liari smiled. "And you're not just a mechanic anymore." A few days later, a message came from a distant corner of the galaxy. It wasn't from the guard. It was from other rebels, other survivors, other runaways. They had heard of what happened on Farron 4. They wanted to come. Jack read the message aloud. In the council room, Liari stood up and said clearly, "Let them. We are not just hiding anymore. We are building a new kind of home, one that no empire can take." And so, Freehold grew. New people came every day. With every ship that landed, the hope grew stronger. Jack built new engines, new homes, new power systems. Liari trained fighters, taught politics, helped people learn to lead themselves. They stood side by side, not just as partners, but as something deeper. They didn't speak about love much, but it was there, in every glance, in every fight, in every rebuilt wall. One evening, Jack gave Liari a small gift, a handmade ring to match the star steel one she gave him. "This one," he said, "is made from the first bolt I ever fixed on your ship." Liari looked at it for a long time. Then she leaned forward and whispered, "I really like being your not-husband." Jack laughed. "And I like being your not-husband, too." They both smiled. The space station Argon 12 buzzed with new energy. Ships came and went, and the people who lived here felt hope in their hearts. Jack stood outside his workshop, watching the stars through the big glass windows. It had been many months since Liari first arrived. Many things had changed since then. Liari was no longer the scared princess who crashed her ship here. She had become a leader, a symbol of freedom for many, and she had chosen to stay on Argon 12 to help build a new life for herself and others like her. Jack smiled as he remembered the first time she had called him husband by mistake. It had been embarrassing, but something real had grown from that small moment. That morning, Liari walked into Jack's workshop. She was wearing simple clothes, nothing royal, just comfortable and ready for work. "Morning, mechanic," she said softly. Jack looked up and wiped his hands on a rag. "Morning, Liari. Ready for another day of fixing broken ships and broken lives?" She smiled. Always. They worked together side by side. Jack fixed ships while Liari planned for the future of their community. The station was becoming a place where people from all over the galaxy could find safety and hope. One evening, as the station lights twinkled like stars, Jack and Liari stood together on a balcony overlooking the busy docks. Jack asked quietly, "Do you ever miss your old life? The palace, the throne?" Liari shook her head. "No. That life was a cage. I was trapped by rules and lies." Jack looked at her, thinking about everything she had gone through. "You're brave," he said. "Not many could stand up to their own family." Liari smiled gently. I didn't do it alone. Jack took her hand. I'm glad you didn't. They stood together, holding hands, watching the stars. Weeks passed. Liari's group, the Free Flame, grew stronger. More ships joined them, more people believed in the new way she was creating. The Empire was starting to change, slowly but surely. Jack and Liari stayed together through every challenge. They weren't just partners in battle anymore, they were partners in life. One day, a message came for Liari. It was from her mother, the Empress. The message was simple. Daughter, you have changed more than I thought possible. I cannot stop what you have begun. I hope you find peace in the path you have chosen. Mother. Liari read the message aloud to Jack. He smiled. Sounds like even the Empress respects you now. Liari nodded. Maybe. Life on Argon 12 settled into a new rhythm. Jack and Liari often worked late, repairing ships, planning missions, or just talking. One quiet night, Liari looked at Jack and teased. Ready for that wedding? Jack laughed. I think so, but only if you promise to keep calling me that. She leaned close. Deal. Their story was no longer just about a runaway princess and a mechanic. It was about hope, trust, and finding family where you least expect it. And it all started with one accidental word.